I don't know. I just always felt like I couldn't waste my life, honestly. I've always been spontaneous. I've always been one to just have a goal. Once I have it set in my mind, I'm very clear that that's all I can focus on.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener. I am Cody Diener, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer with TNA Wrestling. I am a professional speaker traveling all across the nation, delivering my story and inspiration and motivation to youth all across the country. I am also a father to 4 wonderful children and a husband to 1 beautiful wife. And I'm a podcaster, not just a podcaster, I'm the people's choice. Yes, I am having so much fun with what I'm doing with TNA Wrestling right now on TV and independent wrestling all across the world as well. But I just came off a really awesome 2 days with TNA Wrestling. If you watched Under Siege on the TNA Plus app, you know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, you're going to see the fallout of that. If you're watching this or listening to this when this episode drops on Thursday, you can watch the fallout of Under Siege tonight all across the world on various platforms and on various channels all across the world. If you want to know where to watch TNA Wrestling, head on over to tnawrestling.com and you can see worldwide where you can watch the show. For the next 2 weeks, you'll be seeing the tapings that we taped just this past weekend at Albany, New York. And let me just say to the people of Albany, thank you for being awesome. Thank you for helping me bring the fun back to professional wrestling, the unpredictability, the spontaneity, and just choosing the wild things for me to do and just coming along for this ride with me that is happening right now in my career as I let the fans decide what I'm going to do. Choose your own adventure. I'm in on that adventure, wrestling fans. The people have spoken and I listen, and we are having fun, aren't we? I just love it so much. Not only have I been loving what I'm doing on TV, I'm loving where I am right now. I just, after the Albany, New York tapings, I came home, did a speech in Ontario, and then right now, again, if you're listening to this on Thursday, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I'm doing a speech at a number of schools, some speeches and programming at a number of schools here in Alberta. Just wonderful people out here in Alberta. I love coming out west. And then in a couple days, I'm gonna be hopping back on a plane, doing some more speeches in Ontario. We're right in the middle of Mental Health Week, and I didn't even think of this until I just said it out loud. But I think there's somebody out there that might need to hear this. If you are going through a tough time, if you're going through some mental health issues, some mental health challenges, or you're dealing with a family member who's struggling, I know what that's all about. I come from a home where my father dealt with bipolar disorder. I grew up in a home with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of turmoil, a lot of things that I had to see, deal with, overcome. And it's something that I talk about in my programming, my presentations. I've been talking about this all week with young people here, Mental Health Week in Canada. And I just want to say that if that is you, you're not alone, number one. And number two, there is help out there. You don't need to be ashamed to talk about it, to find help, ask for help, and just talk about it. Get it out in the open. You don't need to hold it inside and not talk about it with anybody. So I just want to encourage anybody that, like I said, is dealing with it or has a friend or family member that's dealing with it. Again, you're not alone. If you're one of those people that's helping a friend or helping a family member, God bless you. We need you. We need those people. We need the helpers. Mr. Rogers, one of my heroes from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he used to say, find the helpers. Be the helper. Be a helper today. Put a smile on someone's face, especially this week as it's being Mental Health Week. Put a smile on someone's face. I think we're going to put some smiles on some people's faces this week. You had a smile on your face last week. If you listened to part 1 with Gail Kim, I appreciate it. And if you listened last week, you also heard me talk about Rest When Dead clothing. There are sponsors. If you can just go check out Rest When Dead clothing on Instagram. You will not be disappointed. You will not just see me over there hyping their stuff, but you'll be seeing Crazy Steve. You'll be seeing Jake Something. You'll be seeing Jody Threat, and you'll see some wicked awesome merch like the merch I'm wearing right now. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, for you audio listeners, you got to go over to @Cody Diener Podcast on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, and watch some of the videos and see this awesome swag. And then you want to see more of it, go to restwhendead.ca and pick up the best, most comfortable workout swag in the industry today. That's restwhendead.ca. Speaking of working out, you need some supplements to kind of push you through your next workout. You need to conquer, evolve, and overcome in the workout game. You can do that. CEO. Conquer, evolve, overcome. CEOfit.ca has got all the top of the line best supplements in the world at the cheapest prices, often free shipping. And if not, it's like $6-7 for the shipping. It's the best deal going and the best supplements in the game. So go to CEOfit.ca. They're also a sponsor of the show. If you get to the end of this episode and you're like, man, I need some more of Gail Kim. Part 2 was awesome. Part 1 was awesome. I just need more. Well, guess what? There is more. Patreon.com/Cody Diener. And there's a bonus story with Gail Kim talking about a never before heard scenario match. I mean, it's not a never before heard match. It's a widely seen, widely, praised match. It's her favorite match during her feud with Awesome Kong, but she told some behind the scenes stuff that kind of happened during that match that she's never really talked about. She talked about it with me over on patreon.com/Cody Diener. Sign up for a free trial and you can hear that bonus story as well as full conversations, early and ad-free with all of my guests. Where's that? Patreon.com/Cody Diener. Mother's Day is coming up. Get a cameo, cameo.com/Cody Diener for me, from me to you, to your mom, to your wife, to a loved one that just needs a little pick me up for Mother's Day. Get him a cameo for me, cameo.com/Cody Diener. I also got a wide range of t-shirts. Every t-shirt really I've ever made in my wrestling career, and that's spanning a very long time. I'm not going to tell you that, or it's going to age myself. That's been many, many years. You can go see them all at prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Diener and support me that way by picking up a t-shirt. If you want to book me on your indie show, go to bookcody@codydiener.com. If you want to book me at your school for a presentation, for a seminar, I still have openings for the rest of this school year, and I'm already starting to fill up the fall for the next school year. You can do that by going to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A, chrisgrayspeaks.com. Learn more about my speaking career and what I can offer your school, an event you might be planning, a youth group, a youth conference. I'm all over the place. I love what I do. And one thing that I really love is talking to guests like today's guest, which is Gail Kim. Let's get into our guest. You don't need to hear me ramble and shill anymore. You want to hear more of Gail Kim because I left you on a cliffhanger last week. We were smack dab in the middle of this conversation with the 7-time Knockouts champion, the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champion, a former WWE Women's Champion, a TNA Hall of Famer, a woman who's been ranked in the top 50 females in history of the WWE. She was on the 9th season of Amazing Race Canada, and her husband is Robert Irvine. Her wedding was featured on the Food Network's Restaurant Impossible. Lots of different ways you might know Gail Kim, but you know her even more now from last week's conversation. If you didn't listen to last week, hit pause right now. Go download last week's episode, whether you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify. If you're driving down the road, don't hit pause. Just don't pay attention to your phone. Just keep listening to this episode and you'll keep listening to the conversation. You'll go, man, this conversation is awesome. I better go back and listen to part 1 as well, because you can consume them in backwards if you need to, because it doesn't matter what order you listen to. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it because Gail Kim is awesome. So let's continue with part 2 with my friend and now yours, the one and only TNA Hall of Famer, Gail Kim.
And sometimes you just got to bet on yourself and believe that it's going to work out. All my biggest achievements in my career have been when I'm ready to take that big chance and bet on myself. I mean, it's happened a few times, and it's paid off. And they're always scary chances where
I was gonna ask you that. Like, how scary was that?
So scary. It's so scary. But you ask yourself at some point, do I want to continue being this miserable? Do I continue sitting here? I don't know. I just always felt like I couldn't waste my life, honestly. I've always been spontaneous. I've always been one to just have a goal. Once I have it set in my mind, I'm very clear that that's all I can focus on. So I'm lucky that I have that mentality, because not everyone, I've always had the mentality too. And these all sound so cliche, but if there's an opportunity brought to me and I'm like, oh man, I'm scared to do that. But you know what? This is an opportunity. I can't turn it down. Like, you always got to look at it that way, unless it's something like singing or dancing. Okay. I know I'm not a good singer or dancer. I am not going to win any competition. I'm good there. But if it's anything else, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like, and I've had this conversation with a number of wrestlers, both on the show, but and also privately.
Yeah.
Are you someone then who doesn't chase security? You more so, you chase a dream, a goal, or happiness, rather than security? Because if you're given an opportunity here, sign this other 3-year deal with the biggest wrestling company in the world, there's some financial security in that versus, you know what I mean? Versus here's this other thing, you know?
I'll be very fair, and I've said this to many people throughout my recently, actually, because I've kind of experienced this all now. I've always been very fortunate because my wrestling years have always, I missed WCW. That was the big money years, right?
Okay.
Now with AEW around, it's pushed up all the salaries, you know, and there's more competition, more jobs. I've never been a primetime talent during those years. So for me, and maybe this is partially my fault, I've never been offered a shit ton of money. I've never been in a position where I was like, man, I'm giving up hundreds of thousands of dollars to stay here for another 3 years. It was always kind of just a basic salary in wrestling. So for me, it was an easy decision. Am I staying here to make this, or I can go make comparable money and try to prove myself? So if we're talking about realism here, I've never been in a situation where I'm offered, say, $500,000 to stay somewhere for a couple of years.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's been easy decisions for me. So I can't give myself too much credit in that regard. I do bet on myself.
Yes.
And like this last time I came to TNA, that was where I did decide to walk away, right? Myself. I said, I can't do this anymore. I have some talent to show if I'm given the opportunity to showcase it. So
was part of the betting on yourself, does that tie into, I just had ODB on the show, and we talked about that very special time, which would have been like your first run in TNA, that you said the Gail and Kong steel cage match, that kind of era. ODB was there as well. You were like building something. Like the Knockouts was this new idea, this new concept. That was the true women's revolution before there was really this women's revolution that they talk about in WWE. The very first true, real women's revolution, in my opinion, I think in a lot of fans' opinion, was that original Knockout building era of TNA, which you were at the forefront of. Was that like a conscious, let's bet on ourselves, let's prove ourselves, let's build this unique thing? Was that something that was conscious to you, or is it just like, nope, this is just what we do, and it just kind of happened organically?
Well, I just remember there was no women's wrestling at that time, right? So before I started TNA, I'd done an Australian tour with majority of the TNA is right before they started on Spike. Okay. And so we did a tour. It's mostly them. Jeff was there. Scott was there. And I'd worked with Scott previously in the indies, and he's like, well, Jeff really likes you and like sees talent in you. And we don't have time for a women's division right now, but we're about to start in Spike. And then so my passion got reinvigorated, and people have heard this story a million times. And I went back, and they said they wanted me for wrestling because that's what they saw in me. But I mean, it was like a year and a half, and I was like, God, my clock's ticking again, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just going. So I kept on bugging them. That was a conscious effort. I just kept on saying, I want to wrestle. I want to wrestle. I want to wrestle. And it just became like, I can't manage these guys and watch them do what I love every single week, because we're filming weekly at that point. And then, so like I said, this is where, I don't know what you call it, but I did bet on myself. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I got to move on. You guys are not going to have me wrestle. And then Jeff turned around and it's like, can you wrestle Jackie Moore? And I was like, bring in anybody and we will prove ourselves to you. And, you know, it was always a feeling of we got to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we're consciously thinking we're building something. We just kept on thinking, oh my God, we have another chance. We got to kill it. Oh my God, we have another chance. We got to kill it. We got to prove ourselves. There's a constant proving of we're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I swear to today, I think it's the same kind of way, except the girls, have maybe I guess in a sense a little bit less to prove. In a sense,
Yeah,
we'll have to fight for our spot in the card. Now we have a couple of spots on the card, which is
yeah, which you helped build. Like whether they want to be humble about it or not, like because of the work that was put in before, now that you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Now I don't think it's as much, you have to prove yourself as a female to prove that we're even going to have a female spot in the show. Now it's just, we just got to prove yourself because that's what everybody's got to do.
Yes.
Otherwise you don't get to wrestle on TV, right? It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but whereas before there was a different kind of proving yourself. There's a little bit more, like there's a little bit more pressure when it's like, well, if you don't prove it, then maybe there isn't even going to be a knockouts division.
100%. Oh, when they told us they're bringing that title, just to have a women's title and to have a division, I remember screaming in the arena that day when Dutch told us. And I screamed out loud, and people probably thought there was bloody murder going on, right? It was just like that begging for so long was coming true. And you know, it's funny because I am very grateful of winning the women's WWE Women's Championship in my debut. But it's just such a different feeling when you fight for something for so long, and then like that actually comes to fruition after a battle. You know, it's such a different sense of accomplishment.
That's something that anyone listening to this can relate to. You don't have to be a wrestler because that's a life thing, right? The gratification you get when you're specifically putting in the work to accomplish this goal, rather than this thing, a really cool thing happening, but here you go, versus no, this is what we're striving for. We're striving, we're pushing, and then boom, it happens because of the pushing, because of the effort of multiple people. Man, that's a different.
And it continues because of that, and because everyone's putting in that group effort, right? Oh, the rest of the girls see it and they get excited, and then it becomes you know, to this day, when I meet girls who are wrestlers today, I watched the Knockouts when I was younger, and that's what I wanted to be. You don't even know how much that makes my heart sing. Like when we did the rebrand of TNA, when we did that whole video, the vignette, and some of the girls were standing next to me, and 2 of them or 3 of them were like, change their social media profile to TNA Knockout, like right in that second. People are waiting to become a knockout, a TNA Knockout.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry. It was like the best feeling that if anyone told me that, whatever years ago, 2007, 2008, I would never believed all that. You know?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. That's like a legacy that no one's ever going to be able to take away from you.
Yeah.
That you've leaving a place and a division or a workplace or whatever we're talking about. In this case, we're talking about, you know, a division within a wrestling company, but this is true for anybody. Leaving a place better than when you left it there's nothing better than that,
Yeah.
right? Because
And we're
you're
still
helping.
continuing to do that right now.
Yes.
Because I don't know if everyone knows. I mean, I would assume if they watch your podcast, they know you're a producer.
Yes, I talk about that. It's one thing that I do talk about. Yeah.
So we're so lucky that we
Mhm.
get to stay in this business and contribute. I mean, you're still a talent. So I always count my blessings every day that I get to still be in this business and contribute, even
Mhm.
after the fact that
Yeah.
I'm in the ring. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about that because I know for me, when I first started producing, I had this question mark in my mind of, am I gonna like this?
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna like it because I like helping talent. I've been like that kind of forever. I've done a lot of seminars and things, but like I wasn't sure, like, oh, am I really gonna enjoy this at the same kind of level? Am I gonna be able to live through the wrestlers that I'm
Yeah.
helping produce? And then I had a match where it happened, and I'm
Yes.
screaming in the headset, and I feel like I'm in the ring, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, this is
Yes.
awesome. I do love this.
Yes.
It
Yes.
seems like you know what I'm talking about. Has that been the case where you've really enjoyed that process?
I think we all tell this story. I think if you're a wrestler and you become a producer, your fear is that you're never going to get that feeling that you had in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while. I'll say at the beginning, I was a terrible producer at the beginning, as we all probably are. But I just wanted to reach through the monitor and just do it all myself. I'm like, oh, they're doing it wrong. I'm trying to be in control. And then when you start letting go of that control, and you learn to trust those talent, and you know which talent want more of your help, you kind of learn each personality. And then, that one match, when you finally get that satisfaction, I tell people to this day, some of these girls' matches, I'll be on cloud 9 for weeks like they are. It's very strange. I'm like, oh, I have that. And I think it makes them happy too.
Yeah, that's cool.
You get that feeling too.
Yeah.
So exciting. Like just
Yeah.
talking about it. I'm really happy I'm at that place. And just saw a WrestleMania, like looking at all the producers' pictures, I'm like, majority of them are from TNA.
Yes, they are.
Bobby Roode just did the 2 main events, and I always knew, he had a great mind for the business. And I saw him on an interview, and he said the same thing, that he loves producing. And I was just so happy for him, because it's a relieving feeling to know that you're going to get that thrill through back behind the
Mick Foley calls it the post-match afterglow. That when you're a competitor and you get to sit down and like you get to just bask in this feeling and realizing that you did something special. And then to have that moment as a producer where you get to sit there and bask in that afterglow of you helping contribute to this thing that just got created that was special. That's a really cool thing.
It's a cool
to get.
And you relate, because it's just, as a talent, you're always trying to reach. If you have those magical moments in the ring, you're always trying to chase that again. You're always
chasing the dragon.
Magic feeling, and so I really feel happy knowing that they're feeling that. Right? Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. I know exactly what that feels like.
I didn't even think of it till just now, but there's a really good comparison for me as a father of 4 kids. I really enjoyed playing sports as a young kid, but now I get to watch my kids play sports. And I'm more invested in the sidelines as a parent watching my kid going, box out, get that rebound, take that shot. Like I feel like I'm on the court with my kid. It's kind of the same thing when you're producing, right? Like you're living through them in this really cool way that I don't know. I feel very blessed that I get to do it. And it's like, okay, when my in-ring career is done and I can't take the bumps and my physically I'm not able to do it anymore, I got this really cool thing that I still get to stay involved with and still really be in the ring without being in the ring.
And you're really good at it.
Thank you. You are too. We've put each other over privately a lot because we've got to work together, which I'll say this publicly. We've got to work together, and I appreciate it because we have very similar mind on how we view the way wrestling should be done.
100%.
I don't think that there's a right way and a wrong way to do wrestling, but I do know that there's a better way to do it.
Yes.
You know, and I think we
Yeah.
were both in sync with the better way and telling stories and
100%.
concentrating on the feeling of things, because you'll remember the feeling that you have, which is a life lesson. I brought it up earlier. You remember that feeling that you had walking into wrestling school or walking into Louisville, you're nervous, and then that person, idiot, takes that nervous feeling away and says, here, you can live at my house. You'll never forget that feeling. That's a life lesson, and that's the same thing in wrestling. If you make them feel it, you'll never forget it.
Exactly. So I feel like that's how I produce.
I want to take a pause from our conversation to tell you about today's sponsor, ceofit.ca. Their byline is simple: conquer, evolve, overcome. Do you need to conquer your next workout? Or maybe you've hit a plateau in your exercise game and you need to evolve. Or you're starting to find there's some obstacles in the gym that you can't overcome. CEO Fit will help you conquer, evolve, and overcome any obstacle in your way with their top of the line supplements. Whether it's a pre-workout to help you crush that next cardio session, or man, you did crush that cardio session and you need to fill your muscles back up with some high quality protein, we got that for you at ceofit.ca. There's also creatine, vitamins, test boosters, seasonings, and syrups to make your meal not just tasty but healthy too. Oh, I can't forget, they're not just going to help you work out your muscles, they're going to help you work out your brain. They got nootropics for brain function right now at ceofit.ca. Are you a Canadian that you've listened to commercials like this before and then you jump on the website and realize, wait a minute, this free shipping or cheap shipping that they're talking about doesn't apply to me because I'm Canadian? Well, guess what? ceofit.ca is a proud Canadian company, and we are offering to you Canadian listeners any order over $120, free shipping. Now, you US customers and listeners right now might be going, wait a minute, what about me? Well, I got something for you too. It doesn't matter how big your order is. You might go over there and go, man, I need it all. And you get 10 boxes full of these awesome supplements. It's going to cost you $6. $6. Any size order, anywhere in the United States, $6 in shipping. Not only that, American, with the conversion rate, any price that you see on ceofit.ca, it's going to convert it to US dollars. So everything's going to be even cheaper for my American customers. So you need to conquer, you need to evolve, you need to overcome. Well, there's only one place that you need to go, and that's ceofit.ca. That's ceofit.ca. That's a life lesson, and that's the same thing in wrestling. If you make them feel it, you'll never forget it.
Exactly. So I feel like that's how I produce. When, say, someone's telling me their ideas, I'm like literally thinking when I'm going, how do I feel right now? And
yes, me too. Yes.
So,
yeah, totally.
This instance.
So what, going on feeling, how did it feel to be inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame?
I think that was like, because people always ask you, what was your biggest achievement? And I think really that probably couldn't have been topped in a sense, because really, I think everyone's looking for different achievements in their life or what's important to them. And for me, the respect of my peers and the fans, obviously, was the most important thing to me. When people used to interview me and ask me, what would you like to achieve in your career? And I always said, I just want fans to remember me as one of the best female wrestlers out there. That's all I want to be remembered for. And if that helps contribute to that and gives me the confirmation, and I guess it did in all reality, it felt like it was the icing on the cake, right? So like you said, you can't take that away from me now. And I'm just very proud of it. And it was everything I could have hoped for, to be honest.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So I have some other things that I wanted to talk to you about. I have no idea how to transition into them, other than
Say it.
I feel like I feel like this is the transition. Like,
Yeah.
because you spent so much time, on in the public eye, on TV, but as a character, as Gail Kim, and then as I'm doing some research on you, and I'm seeing, and I already knew this, but like as I'm being reminded in the research that you're married to a very famous man who also
Yes.
has a television show. The part that I didn't realize that I read is it says that your wedding was documented on television as part of an episode of Restaurant
Yes.
Impossible. This is
Yes.
true.
This
Okay.
is
Yes, this is true.
yes.
Now, is that difficult for you or easier because you've been a television personality, so to
Yeah.
speak, as a wrestler? However, we're documenting your personal life here. This isn't, you're not a wrestling character anymore.
Yeah. It was
How
one
was how was
episode. It was a
yeah.
good episode, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, we told them straight up. We said, let's just put it this way. They had planned to do it, and then they sat on it, and they weren't pulling trigger. And then it was like a couple months out from when we planned to get married. We're like, we're not waiting for you guys anymore. And so we decided to start planning our wedding. Then they jumped on the bandwagon. And then we pretty much set the rules in that regard. After that, we said, I told them, I don't want to feel like it's a television show. It's my wedding first and foremost.
Yep.
I'm not redoing any shots of me walking into some house or whatever. You better get the shot or else you lose it. And that's the bottom line. And I'll say at the ceremony, I never saw one camera in view. They had all these long lenses, and we also told them at a certain time, and it was pretty early, like I'd say 9:00. We said cameras off because we don't want our guests to feel like they have to be self-conscious about drinking or having a good time. First and foremost, it was our wedding.
Yeah.
Secondly, it was a TV show, and they did a really good job. I'll say they did a really good job, and we didn't even need a videographer because they filmed the whole thing. Right?
Sweet.
So that's good. Best of my life, and it was everything I'd hoped for. Yeah.
Oh, really that's good. Beautiful. Good for you for setting those ground rules. That's a good life lesson for other things too. Yeah, like you set those ground rules and make that.
But like you said, I think if you're part of television in some way or for so long, you kind of don't get excited by the fact of it's TV, and so you don't let those people control every aspect of what it is, because you kind of realize, okay, television. If you let people kind of take control or take advantage, they may do that. So not on your wedding day, though. Right?
Nope,
you got to set the ground rules.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So you earlier in this conversation, you've said we've kind of pulled out a number of lessons along the way and talking about your journey. I mean, one that you've said a couple times is betting on yourself, and which I think is a really good like business lesson. Right. This isn't just a life lesson, but there's a lot of people that listen to this that run their own businesses, and they pull out really good, business strategies, mindsets for business through learning about the wrestling business. Has there been a lesson or two that you've learned from your husband, who is a very successful businessman, that you've been able to glean and maybe help you within your business, within the wrestling business, or just in life in general?
Definitely he's the same kind of way. He's more of a high risk guy actually than I am.
Okay, interesting.
I would say I'm not as risky as him, even though I sound like I am. Right. I always wait to the point of like, I'm so passionate and emotionally charged and goal oriented that I'm like, screw this, I'm gonna go do it. He's kind of like that a lot of the time, right? And I'd say the other thing that I've learned, not only from him, but watching other people in different businesses, because I would say in wrestling, a lot of us are very tunnel vision. We're all about wrestling. I think part of my growth in my life has been exposing myself to not just having wrestling in my life. Doesn't mean I'm less passionate about wrestling than anybody else in the business. I feel like I have just as much passion and determination. But you do need to expose yourself and be more open-minded to what's out there, other people, because other people will always be teaching you things. Mostly, I would say surround yourself with people who are better than you. You know,
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
because a lot of people want to surround themselves where they're the best, where they feel the most secure or, the strongest.
Mhm.
But if you surround yourself with people who are better than you, you're going to learn things and you're going to open your eyes to bigger things. And like I said, when it came to saying opportunities, change is scary.
Mm.
But you know what? Would you rather look back and go, man, I should have done that thing five years ago?
Mm.
Or, oh man, 5 years ago I made an ass of myself. But you know what? I freaking tried to do it. Oh well, I made an ass of myself. But you know what? I tried to do it. And I did
Yeah,
it. I
that's
would much rather have that and learned something out of that experience more than regretting that I never even tried. I think that is more scary to me.
Mm.
I think that's the scariest thing to me is regretting
Yep.
that I
That
never tried.
I relate to that 100%. I don't
Yeah.
have any regrets in my
Good.
life. Like I don't you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
just don't. I believe that everything happens for a reason,
I
but
do.
I also have the mentality that you have is if I don't do this, I might regret it. So I
Yeah.
have to do it. I
Yeah.
have to try it. That was for me when I started wrestling. I was 140 pounds, soaking wet with a brick in my pocket.
Yeah.
If I was using logic, then I'm not going to be a wrestler. It's not.
Yeah.
I live in a small town in the middle of nowhere with a population of 200 people. The wrestling school is 3 hours from my house. I'm a skinny little kid that have no money. Logic says, nope,
Yeah.
not happening. But in my mind, I'm like, no, I have to do this now because it's what I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to regret it if I don't.
Exactly.
And here we are. That's
And here you are. You're a wrestler. You're a producer. You have a podcast. Look at all
yeah,
these things. And you're a public speaker.
that's
You're,
right.
oh my gosh, you do it all. You really
Yeah.
do it all.
Well, I like the idea that you said, opening yourself up to new ideas, different
Yeah.
things, like all those things you just listed. For me, I've remained open to try new things,
Yeah.
see if I like it, go on an adventure. was that your mentality when you just got asked to be in the Amazing Race
Oh,
Canada and you're like, okay, yeah, let's do it? Is
yeah. The casting agent reached out, and I was like,
okay.
first, I always figure, okay, I got to find out if it's legit because you get all these business emails, you never know.
Yes, yes.
And then so I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, Amazing Race has come into my life now. This is the third time. So
Oh,
the American one has popped into my life twice, but
okay.
I wasn't an American citizen, and you have to be a citizen.
Yes.
So then now it's like 10 to 15 years later, and the Canadian one pops up. And I was retired at this point, so I was missing competition. I was missing having a goal physically,
Mm,
just all those things. I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay, well, it's in my face. They're asking me, and everyone else has to audition, so I can't say no, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just had to find a partner, and I did, and yeah. So I mean, we didn't do well, but I
Yeah.
did it. I tried
And you
it.
got no regrets? Yeah.
No regrets. No regrets whatsoever. Yeah.
What was that experience? Can you, I mean, that's such a generic question. What was
Yeah.
that experience like? But like,
Um,
is there a memory or two of something that really stands out? Or going back to that, was there a feeling that you'll never forget that from something that happened, that really stands out to you?
I mean, I really love the people.
Oh,
Listen,
okay.
normally all my experiences, what I take away from normally the good ones are always the people you come away
Yeah.
with in the experience. We had a really good time. It's just that we only had the one day of the race. We had a training week, which
Okay.
was and all that. It was just cold. It was freezing. So I was very proud of myself for making it through because I have Florida blood now, right?
Yes. Yeah. That blood changes.
The peg, shooting the open with the snow and ice, like storm. The
Oh,
wind was
Winnipeg. Oh, that
oh,
couldn't have been the worst
oh,
spot to have.
brutal. Like a winter peg, of course.
Yeah.
And so it was fun with the people. It was fun experiencing something different. I'll say, even on that one day, I was like, "Whoa, this is hard." And Brooke and Robbie E did it, the American
Oh,
one,
yes.
and
Right.
they both said that it's way harder than it looks. And I was like, "Yes,
Mm,
it really." And I only did the one day, and then so we go back and we meet with the rest of the crew, and just hearing about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually kind of glad we got eliminated. It sounded really hard. It sounded
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I had wrestler brain the whole time. I'm like, oh, my brain's just freezing right now.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason I
That.
wrestler brain. I get wrestler brain all the time, and that's why
Yes.
wrestling is life is wrestling. I got wrestler brain all the time, and yeah, we all do, right? Well, it'll never leave us. So I appreciate your time here, Gail, with me and sharing your wrestling brain with my listeners, and these life lessons that we've both learned along the way in our crazy life of wrestling. Can I switch into pro wrestler worker mode right now, and in my thank you say, can you stick around for like 2 more minutes and share a bonus story? After I'm done the free version of my podcast, I hop over onto Patreon, where I have some patrons that really support me, and I like to offer them a bonus story. So I want to offer them a bonus story exclusive to my patrons with Gail Kim that we'll share over there. And you're cool with that?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Gail, for doing this. I appreciate it very, very much.
Of course. Thank you. Anytime.
That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener and with my guest for the last 2 weeks, Gail Kim. Oh, Gail Kim is so awesome. She's so sweet and she's so inspiring, and I'm just so happy that she was willing to take time out of her very busy schedule. Gail and I, as you heard us talking about, we work together at TNA Wrestling. We both work as producers, or if you're a wrestling fan, you maybe heard the term agents, road agents, what they used to call back in the day. But we work as producers, helping young talent, helping develop characters and put matches together, and just helping the entire machine that is a wrestling show that gets put on. A lot of people don't realize behind the scenes all the work that goes into it. I've been doing that for the last number of years with TNA Wrestling, and I love it so much. Gail and I have worked together multiple times, kind of tag team producing a number of matches that you've seen on TNA Wrestling. And I'm just glad that she was able to come and just be open about her journey, her career, her personal life. I learned a lot the last 2 weeks about Gail Kim, and it makes me like her even more. So if you were a fan of Gail Kim, which I'm sure you are, now you're even more so. Just like me, I'm even more of a fan of Gail Kim than I was before the last couple weeks. Now, please go onto your social media right now. If you enjoyed this, go share on your social media that you listen to this episode at Cody Diener. Tag me in it. We'll share it with Gail. Tag her too. Gail Kim, it's me, is her social media handle. She's on Twitter and Instagram. Let her know that you've thoroughly enjoyed the episodes that she was a part of here on Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. And maybe we'll have her on again in the future because she was such an amazing guest. Now, next week, I'm super excited about next week's guest. I teased you a little bit when I started to introduce Gail Kim. I don't think I want to even tease you in any way other than maybe I will. We've had some non-wrestlers on the show, just a few non-wrestlers, but who are deeply involved in the wrestling industry in various ways. Our next guest, I've never had someone that had this job in the industry. I've never had them on the show before. So this is a first in terms of the job that this person does within the industry, and the companies and the legends that this person has stood beside and worked with is literally a who's who in professional wrestling. This person has seen it all. They've been involved in some of moments that some of you longtime wrestling fans have seen and just fall in love with wrestling. This person has been involved in those things. That's enough. I'm done. I don't want to tease you anymore. But if you want to find out who it is, then just follow me at Cody Diener on social media. I'll be announcing it this coming weekend who the guest will be for the next couple weeks. And you can listen to that full conversation with the guest early and ad-free on patreon.com/Cody Diener, as well as a bonus story. All stuff goes up early and ad-free over there. So consider joining a free trial. Have I told you about patreon.com/Cody Diener yet? I don't think I have. I don't know. Maybe I should just tell you, because I don't think I've ever told you about it before. Patreon.com/Cody Diener. All the content over there. It helps support me, helps me keep bringing this show to you for free each and every week. Tell you some stuff I'm not going to be doing for free. Oh, thank goodness I'm not doing it for free. Is the stuff I'm doing on my schedule upcoming. If you're listening to this when the episode drops, this coming weekend on May 11th, I'll be at Top Tier Wrestling in Hamilton defending my Steel City Wrestling Championship. Then a couple days later, I'll be hopping on a plane going to Moose Jaw for some top secret Rest When Dead clothing projects. Oh man, I can't wait to tell you more about that in the coming weeks. Then I will be going to Newport, Kentucky, which is just across the border from Cincinnati, Ohio. So the Cincy area, Kentucky area, May 18th and 19th with TNA Wrestling. You want to learn more about what we got going on there, those events, how to get your tickets, go to tnawrestling.com. Then, oh man, the rest of May gets crazy, the rest of June, and then it just keeps going on and on and on. I don't even want to bother telling you about that right now. Otherwise, this outro is going to be way too long, even longer than it is already. So let's just end today's show by saying thank you to all of my guests for coming and joining us the last 2 weeks for part 1 and 2 with Gail Kim. And I hope that you will come back next week with next week's legendary guest, because this is going to be a completely different guest who has a completely different journey and a completely different story to tell you. However, we are going to know by the end of the conversation that at the very least one thing is true. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling. We'll see you next week, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.